Business Unity South Africa has welcomed the Forestry, Fisheries and the Environmental Minister Barbara Creese's decision to allow Eskom to operate its Kusile power station without the use of flue gas desulfurization. Happy Khambule is the Energy and Environmental Manager at BUSA, joining us for this chat. Happy, thank you for making time for us. So the continued integrity of the electricity really depends on Medupi and Kusile being operational and at full capacity. How do you think this decision by the minister will help in that regard?
Thank you for having me. First and foremost, I think the decision was really made out of a sense of urgency. It is a situation where things are of exceptional nature. So I think the exercising such a decision basically signals to us that there is there's beginning to be the kind of understanding of the tough decisions that need to be made by government. So what that decision basically means, it says that in light of the environmental requirements that need to be applied on licensees such as Eskom when they're building power stations or when they're operating power stations, some of those are going to be relaxed, meaning that they can now operate Kusile whilst they're undertaking the repairs, and we will have the necessary power from Kusile whilst the repairs are being done. Because if it wasn't for the fact that this decision was made, we would not be able to have power from Kusile at all.
So then the National Environmental Management Air Quality Act is quite key in ensuring that South Africans live in a healthy environment. So it's going to be important, I imagine, for Eskom to complete the repairs to Kusile in line with the conditions that are set out in this exemption.
Yes, correct. Because the point of the matter here is that this exemption is not a permanent exemption. It is not a thing that's going to last forever. It is only there for 36 months. And in light of that, we're still undergoing a transition. So what Eskom needs to do is that it needs to ensure that the power station is brought back online, the repairs are done, and then reinstall the necessary technology, because even in the conditions of, at least the funding conditions for Eskom, which were received, I think, early 2010 and such, it was on the basis that we will have this technology installed because of the inherent nature of how it actually helps with environmental integrity.
Yeah. Do you think there are enough accountability mechanisms in place? As you say, this exemption is conditional. Will you, for instance, be monitoring the stipulated frameworks and progress on the remedial work?
Yeah, so the biggest part for us as Business Unity is that we would be looking towards whether or not the power station comes online in time, because it is key. Like, it is really key for the general capacity that South Africa requires in order to weather the storm of our electricity crisis. Secondly, that the time frame which has been applied for the installation and the repairing of the smokestacks are actually in line. So that's a secondary condition. And then the last one is that whether or not Eskom is keeping to the public participation process that it said it will do, because of the range of stakeholders that are interested and affected by this decision. So we will be keeping a keen eye on the developments, but broadly, in general, we're keeping a keen eye on the President's electricity crisis plan.
It is a tough juggling act, isn't it? Because Eskom also has that responsibility to implement and contribute to a just transition to a low carbon economy.
Yeah, and that's, I think this is where the catch-22 comes, right? So the basis of a just transition, and even for progressive climate mitigation measures, is that you build on your previous gains, you build on whatever achievements you've done prior to when you start your next phase of whatever the plan may be. So in our understanding, whether it is our air quality, including our climate change contribution, the assumption is that you will have Medupi and Kusile working, and you'll start to reduce your carbon emissions from those, including other power stations, with a variety of measures. So if we are starting to have a situation where we've taken these kinds of decisions, where we're increasing emissions, not only air pollution emissions, but also carbon emissions, we are starting to move a little bit backwards from where we want to be in terms of our overall contribution. So it is necessary that the 36 months period in terms of the remedial work is actually adhered to, so that we can get back on the path of reaching net zero by 2050.
Yeah, I think that there's no question that we are in unprecedented times, and the electricity crisis really requires extraordinary decisions. Do you think this decision by the minister signals that government appreciates the urgency with which they need to respond to this crisis?
Well, yes. The first step is obviously that the state of disaster was something that, as Business Unity, we were not happy about, thinking that there were enough laws and rules that would allow us in order to even go in this pathway. But obviously, as the political principles of the country decided to go in this way, and it shows that in their own internal structures, they are gearing up to go in one direction. So this decision, in our eyes, is not just the only decision that is going to be made. There are a series of other decisions that are going to have to come up and also be placed on the table that will require and also indicate to us that this momentum is being kept on, and that the signal is that we're going to address this electricity crisis no matter what comes or whatever is placed in front of us.
How important are public consultations going to be? Because Eskom must also undergo public consultations with the affected communities in order to mitigate, suppose, the consequences of this decision. Because at the end of the day, air quality and climate change mitigation measures are critical to the sustainability of our economy and our society.
Yeah, so I think the first part is that Eskom needs to do the consultations regardless of whether the decision was made or not. The mere fact of contemplating this decision was the reason why we have to undergo public participation. Now, because of the state of disaster, certain processes can be truncated and also deviated from, as long as there's rationality behind it. And because now they've made this decision, and also the minister has also basically said, yes, let's go on. They need to find out what the likely consequences are going to be and how they can mitigate those consequences, and also assure the communities that even with all the issues around air quality that have been there for years and years, those are not going to be put in the back burner, but actually they're going to be addressed in line with addressing this primary issue, so that people can actually say, yes, we've been heard of, we've been taken through the journey, and we support this decision outside of the fact that it's also an electricity crisis issue. We do have an air pollution concern.
Yeah. Happy Khambule, thank you for joining us for this conversation. Liquidator of